Hi guys, and welcome to another vlog brought to you by Argentine Asado, the world's #1 Argentine barbecue vlog. Guys, today we are going to be cooking a rack of ribs, the traditional Argentine way. The rack of ribs in Argentina is one of the most important cuts. It's actually like the staple or foundational symbol of an Argentine barbecue. So stay tuned and I'll be showing you how I prepare the meat, what type of meat I choose, and most importantly, how I prepare the fire and take the meat to the grill, and also all of the other things I'm going to be cooking around that. It's going to be a great session. The sun is out, everyone is happy, it's going to be a great day. Guys, thank you for following me, subscribing, and I would really value if you share this with somebody who would be interested or drop a comment for my next vlog. Thanks guys. Hey guys, so we are here now with the rack of ribs. This is a pretty young animal. This calf was obviously in pretty good condition out in the pastures. As you can see, this fatty side is really good looking. And I always try to look for this bright red color. This is a good sign, and make sure that you're looking here at where the ribs are, and when your butcher cuts the meat, try to make sure that you get like the center part of the rib cage. So this is the rack of ribs. We've got some other things over here, and now we're going to be preparing the meat, and I hope you guys enjoy this process because it's really important that the meat is well prepared early on before the barbecue, because this is going to help you have a great experience. So the grilling experience really starts here in the kitchen, preparing the piece of meat, and I'm going to share with you a few things that I do. And again, this is very much based off personal preference. So I always obviously have my barbecue knife handy. I always make sure that it's super sharp, ready to go. And we are now going to basically go through the piece of meat, and we're going to cut off any excess fat that I don't like. I'm actually going to take this off. So actually this is pretty well prepared by my butcher. The guy obviously knows what I want, so he kind of gets the, so I don't like this. See this white piece of fat here, I'm going to actually take that off. Now you don't need to take off all of the fat, but it's important that you have like a healthy balance between how much fat you're going to leave on the piece of meat and how much you want to take off. So this is actually pretty good condition. Let's turn it over. So you've got some of this fat here, which is kind of very superficial. I would tend to keep that on. I just try to take off the good bits. Okay. Now many people will go to butchers and they'll ask for a cut, especially here in Argentina. It's personal preference. So what size of the ribs they want, depending on how many people are going to be eating, of course. This is around 3.5 kilos, and more or less it'll be good for a table of about 5 or 6 people. Bear in mind we're going to be cooking LTs as well. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually taking off this little layer of fat, trying to expose as much as I can the meat, and there we are. Okay. Okay, this is pretty good. This came pretty good from the butcher, so I can't really complain. And as you can see, I'm actually just, okay, cool. So there is the rack. You guys can see it's a pretty nice rack. And okay, this is where the magic starts. So the first thing I do is I mark all of the ribs that are going on the back side of the cut. The reason I do this is because when I come to cook this rack of ribs, it's going to allow me to cook the ribs and the skin to split open, so I can twist the rib and take it out. If you don't do this cut, it's very likely that the skin is going to become very tough on the side of the ribs, and it's more difficult for you to actually take the rib out of it. Okay. So I'm literally just marking them. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've like marked them one by one. Okay, now that is done, this is where I start to put on my seasoning. Again, in Argentina, we put very little seasoning on the meat, but we do put some. So the first thing I do is I take some oil, and similar to what we did with the brisket, is basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to humidify the meat, and it's going to help me with absorbing the salt and pepper that I'm going to put on in a minute. Okay, so now I've glazed the meat with a little olive oil on both sides, on the ribs and on the inside. It's very important to differentiate which side of the meat we're talking about. So we have ribs on one side, and then basically we have the top side, which is a little bit more fat, and it has this beautiful cut, which is just going to be so tender, so juicy, and just filled with taste. So for the next stage, what we're going to do is we're going to start to salt the meat, and the salting is really important. There's two types of salt you can use. One type of salt is this, which is pretty coarse. It's like it's a pretty coarse salt, and then I have like a special prepared salt, which is Himalayan salt, so it's marine, and it has pepper, oregano. It has a little bit of spice, so a little bit of sweet chili, and it's all mixed in there and dried up, and then obviously it's a great mix to put on meat. So I'm going to put on both. I'm going to go easy on the quantity, because you don't want to like salt the meat, right? You want to have like a decent balance between. And because I glazed the meat with the oil before, this is going to allow me to now, for the meat to absorb better the salt and the pepper or the spices that you've put on. I recommend that you do this because it's also going to help you get the taste, get like the salt flowing into the fibers quicker, because it's going to absorb it at like when the meat gets to a certain temperature and create enough juice, that's when it's going to absorb it. With doing it with a little bit of oil or butter on the meat before, it's going to allow it to absorb it just a little bit better. I'm actually going to put some pepper as well. This again is personal preference. Totally up to you how much you want to put. Now we're going to turn it around, and we're now going to do the same for the rack of ribs. So these spices in this salt are, so basically it's a little bit, I think it's a better salt. I mean, down again, personal preference, so kind of you have to, but this is also just a stat, you buy this in the supermarket. This is like it's called sal de parrilla, which means basically barbecue salt, and it's just a lot coarser, and it is better for the, it's generally better for absorption of the salt on the, okay. There we go. Pretty good. I'm going to turn it around one more time. And there we are done. So now we are ready to put this on the barbecue. Okay guys, so I have waited for around 20 minutes, and a lot of the logs that we put on for picky shin have turned into coal, and they've moved down under here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the coals, and I'm going to create a bed of coals under the grill, and this is going to be like a square, which is going to be the same size as the rack of ribs that we're going to put on. Remember that it is very important that you keep your fire consistent through the whole cooking process. So you're going to actually be stoking the fire for around 3 hours. This is what I use to actually loosen up the coals from under the fire. So what I do is I literally just, so it's basically just like kind of like a hook that goes under the fire, and that helps me then get my coals. Oh, hello. So here I just have like a little spade, it's a barbecue spade, and now I'm going to as you can see, I'm creating like a bed of coals, which is going to give me that consistent heat now for my rack of ribs. Okay, so regarding the time to keep your meat on the grill and which sides to turn it to, you want to make sure that the rib side down more or less is 1 hour and 45. And that is going to keep the meat super succulent because the ribs are protecting the meat fibers from overcooking, and it really helps all of the cooking to be consistent all the way through the cut. Now, depending on how thick the meat is, you need to gauge the time. For this is around 3.5 centimeters, so I'm gonna give it 1 hour and 45, and then I'm gonna turn it over to the fat side down, and I'm gonna give it around 45 minutes before taking it off, and then it is gonna be perfectly succulent, tasty. It's gonna have a really, really rich taste, and most importantly, it's gonna be nice and tender. A really good way to know if your heat is right, which is really the magic of all of this, right? So is to make sure you've got the right heat. You want to be able to watch here, and you can see that the fat slowly is starting to bubble. You might see a little bubble there. So the bubble is there. That bubble is telling me that there is enough heat for the juices to start to take better temperature and start to come out of the meat and out of the marrow of the bone. And that is exactly what we're looking for the fat to start to slowly cook. You can hear that noise, there's a bit of smoke. You're not overcooking it, so you want to make sure you can hold your hand here for 10 seconds, at least 10 seconds. That is a good sign or a good rule of thumb for us to measure the right heat. Okay guys, we are now 45 minutes into the cooking process. We're going to wait for 1 more hour and then we're going to turn it over. Now, just as a few little signals that the cooking process is happening and that you are okay with the heat is you can see these little bubbles coming through. That's a good sign. If you look at the end of each of the ribs, you can see there's little bubbles there. That is also a really good sign. It's very important that you keep the heat consistent without burning the surface of the ribs on the side that is face down on the grill. Here we have a few other little things. So this is gland. We have some Parmesan sausages, and then we have a blood sausage there. And as you can see, the ribs are starting to take a really nice color. And as you can see here, this is starting to nicely take color as well. Let's just have a little sneak peek. Wow, look at that. Okay, so we're gonna still need another hour of cooking, but most importantly, the heat is on point and we are going in the right direction. Okay guys, so it is 1 hour and 45 minutes after we put the rack of ribs down on the grill. Remember, the rack of ribs is going down and we've got the fatty side up. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to turn this over, and probably the trick of doing this the right way is to probably have 2 forks because it is going to be heavy and we don't want to disturb the actual ribs. So what we're going to do, as you can see, look at that, they're really nice and golden, so this is perfect. And what we're going to do is we are going to try and turn these around without disturbing the actual ribs. There you go. And as you can see, these ribs are, remember when we made those cuts in the top? As you can see now, the ribs have actually opened out and you can literally, that's the bone right there. And this is going to be around 1 hour and 15 minutes on this side, and then we're going to be ready to cook, to eat what we've cooked. Okay guys, so we are 1 hour and 30 minutes with the rib side up. So we've been 1 hour and 45 on the rib side down at the beginning. We turned it around 1.5 hours in, and now we are another 1.5 hours, and we're pretty much ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it off, and then I'm going to wait for around 10 minutes. This helps kind of like settle the juices. These the ribs of this rack would have heated up so much during the cooking process that you kind of need to wait for a few minutes to let the whole piece of meat cool down a little bit. And the other thing is, I'm going to obviously take it off and then I'm going to start cutting it up. I would always recommend when you take it off the grill, cut it into 2 because it's going to help you then kind of move it around. Here it goes. Okay, so and we're going to go, and I'm just going to give you a little taste of what this looks like. Okay. This is where like video editing is going to go. Okay, as you can see, okay, it's super, like the color is very consistent all the way through, and as you can see, these ribs I can just pull off like this, and that was because we made that cut in the skin before we put on the meat.